Greetings and God bless. Welcome to another episode of Pastor Mike, Dynamic Voices for a Diverse Church, powered by The Witness, a Black Christian collective. I'm your host, Tyler Burns. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Burns Clan. Please follow at your own risk. And joining me, as always, is the founder of The Witness. He has a very extensive bio. He is the man, the myth, the legend, the two-time best-selling author, Mr. Blue Check Verified himself, Dr. Jemar Tisby. What's going on, brother?
Good to be on the mic for a very special episode. Might be maybe the most anticipated episodes of the year for a lot of folks.
So I know a lot of people enjoy these particular episodes because we put them on to the things that we've been excited about that have been bringing us joy. We call them our cultural artifacts. Once again, if you are just tuning in for the first time, listen, you have to go back and listen to part one. I mean, you don't have to, but it makes the most sense for you to go back and listen to part one. We're detailing our favorite people, things, music, TV shows, books, experiences from a given year. And how we're doing this is it doesn't have to come out this year. It doesn't have to be released this year. It doesn't have to be discovered this year. It's just something that we have to have consumed in the year. So this is in no particular order. And I'll run through my first five from part one, and then you can run through yours.
Do you want to, or do you want them to go back and listen?
Okay, my bad. So I'm gonna keep it. All right, You're right.
You want to find out.
Good point. Okay, so if you want our first five, go listen to part one. Very good. Keep me on task, of course. So we got five more for the people. And I'm really excited about my last five. Are you excited about your last?
I am. They differ from the first five.
Okay, bet.
In pretty significant ways, but it'll be interesting. But why don't you start us off?
Nah, you start us off because I want to end. You know, I got to end with it. You know what I'm saying? I gotta bring it home. We got to slide in.
Tyler,
you know what I'm
always
saying?
wants the last word.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So for this one, I'm gonna go kind of roots, but also kind of contemporary. This probably won't come as a surprise if you've been following my work, but quite honestly, it's not something I've explicitly spoken about a ton yet. So for my first cultural artifact of part two, it is Tom Skinner and Black evangelicals.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Skinner and Black evangelicals.
I figured this was going to make an appearance on the list.
Okay, I'm glad you did. Yeah. It's been an interesting year in the study of Black evangelicals and paying attention to them. So first of all, if you don't know who Tom Skinner is, go back and listen to his talk at Urbana 70. You can just Google Urbana 70 Tom Skinner. He is a Black evangelical. At one point in his career, he was called the Billy Graham of Harlem, which has all kinds of issues, but that kind of helps you place him. But what he was our man on the platform. Mm-hmm. By our man, I mean Black Christians who occupy spaces in predominantly white Christian circles. He was the voice who was telling it like it is, saying where white evangelicals were falling short, saying what it was like to be Black in America. He's doing this in the 60s and the 70s with all of this cultural upheaval. And he is probably the most well-known of a larger group called Black evangelicals, which I argue is a historically situated group that really comes about in the post-World War II era, probably just up through maybe 2000 or so. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I mention them because there's been some interesting movement on them. The most prominent figures, Skinner died in 1994 after a bout with leukemia, very sadly, but his wife lives, Reverend Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner, shout out to her. His right-hand man, Bill Pinnell, is 94 years young and is a mentor and close friend of mine. And there has been a documentary project, an oral history project in the works. I got to sit down and speak about for that. We're also planning a 30th anniversary memorial to commemorate 30 years since Tom Skinner passed. And so there's a little bit more focus, a little bit more attention. I'm talking to some folks about some academic treatments of this. I also mention it because these folks are in some ways the forerunners of certainly my experience and to an extent Pass the Mic and
Absolutely.
The Witness,
For
right?
Sure.
So they are some of the OGs who are in the white college campus ministry, the parachurch, the church, the denomination, the seminary, the college, who are having this experience of being hyper minorities and wanting to bring their full Black selves and their full Christian selves and not have to make a choice or prioritize one or the other, but hold them both simultaneously, right? So we have a lot to learn from them in many ways. We are building on their legacy. They have, because they occupy this space, they're not quite Black church, as in historically Black church tradition. They're certainly not white church or white evangelical, but they have extensive contact with them, which I argue is what makes them evangelical in a different way than historically Black church, which should check all the same theological boxes in a lot of ways. But because they don't have that close contact with white evangelicals in an institutional sense, in an ongoing sense, even in a personal sense, it's a little bit different, right? Like they're not getting paychecks from white churches per se. So because of that, people haven't known where to place them, and they haven't gotten their own treatment really. But they're out there. And honestly, they are the agitators that, to the extent that any sort of white evangelical group has made shifts or progress, it's oftentimes because of the presence of these individuals or these small groups of Black people saying, hey, we're here and things have to shift.
Right.
So shout out, there's a whole cloud of witnesses who could go in this category. I don't want to start naming names because I'll forget folks, but it's an incredibly ripe topic for further discussion and research. But also, I just feel a personal debt of gratitude for what they went through and what they're continuing to stand for today.
I love how we like to refer to this as the expansive Black Christian tradition, versus just simply the Black church, right? Which carries with it all kinds of connotations, some denominations that were in, some denominations that were left out. But I think the expansive Black Christian tradition really encompasses all kinds of different expressions of Black Christian faith, including those who would be agitators as well. So I figured you would mention that. I figured I'd get a mention
at
here.
Some point, yes.
Okay, so my number one I should say number 6, I guess, if we're talking about cultural artifacts. My number 6 is actually a comic book, and It is a comic called Human Target by Tom King.
Sounds nice and light.
Yeah, so it is actually a DC character named the Human Target, Christopher Chance. What he does is he actually assumes the identities of famous people who are being targeted by villains or assassins or those who would like to do them harm. And he assumes their identities to protect them.
Is he a shapeshifter?
Essentially, kind of, but a master of disguise, I guess you could say. Okay. And so there's different iterations of the character. So some of that kind of gets into different spaces. But so he assumes their identities. And in this particular book, he assumes the identity of one Lex Luthor. Huh. And while he's assuming the identity of Lex Luthor, he is poisoned. And because of the way in which he expelled part of the poison is going to take him 12 days. It's giving him 12 days to live. So he has 12 more days to live. And according to all of the research, and detective study that he's done, investigation, someone from the Justice League has tried to poison Lex Luthor and inevitably poisoned him. So he has 12 days to live, and he has 12 days to solve the case. And so
high stakes, that's tense.
Yeah, so it is pretty significant. I really enjoyed Tom King's comics. If you've been following cultural artifacts for a while, you know that my favorite Tom King comic, which is one of my favorite comics of all time, is the Vision story that Tom King had. And so this follows that same mentality. Again, it's like that 12 episode-ish arc, episodic arc within a comic book. And it was really special to see each of the issues take on a different shape, kind of talking with or investigating different characters and investigating their quirks, their insecurities, their frustrations, also their connections with people like Lex Luthor and villains and their revenge streak and all these other things. So he has this ongoing feud with Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern at that time, one of the Green Lanterns. So yeah, it's
does
really
he have superpowers, or he's just really good at disguises? And what is his motivation? Why does he want to protect? And like Lex Luthor is supposed to be a villain, right?
Yeah. So I think this would be considered powers, but not necessarily powers in the traditional sense that you would expect them to be. And I think he was groomed from a young age, basically to have this ability to die but not die, to basically be expelled but not, so basically to be the person who dies but in place of the other person, and to be able to endure that. So there's a lot of, feeling a little cruciformity here,
I'm saying, I'm sensing some sermon illustrations here.
Hey man, I ain't gonna, hey, don't ruin Easter. Don't ruin Easter, okay?
And while I was reading this comic book, follow me now.
His name is Christopher Chance. They call him the human target. And the human target, he stands in place of those who would be killed by assassins.
He's got it worked out.
He assumes their identities. Now, I need you to understand what.
You got it worked out. I see it. That's why you're reading it. Let me just say, I have no idea how you absorb true cultural artifacts doing all that you do. like the stuff. I don't know how you watch YouTube videos, read books, read comic books, watch movies, preach, pastor, travel, write, all of these things. Like I can't keep up.
I'll tell you this, and this is kind of, I guess, something that we could have put at the end, but I think is true now. Consuming art and beautiful things is fuel for the rest of the things. And so for me, I think the observation of masters at work, the observation of skilled practitioners, the observation of inspiration and beauty and wonder and awe is actually the fuel that keeps me going. And so it's been a while, like when I really and truly, when I think about motivational things, I watch something that shows the mastery of someone else. And it motivates me to keep working. It motivates me to do the daily habits, because I see this is what happens when you do the daily habits. It's not that, people applaud you. It's more you can really walk fully in your purpose and what you've been created to do. And so that's why I've enjoyed it. And that's why I love even a Tom King story, because it shows the mastery of words and the arc and, how people connect and just the human feelings that even these fictitious characters will feel, and that we will feel ourselves as well when we face our own mortality, we face our own humanity. So yeah, human target, man.
No, that's profound. Amazing. And I'm glad you said that sort of at the top, because it provides context and foundation for cultural artifacts, like why this is more than just, hey, here's some fun, cool things that Tyler and Jemar like. It's actually what you're talking about is, broadly speaking, kind of self-care, right? But meditating on the true, the good, the beautiful, and specifically meditating on mastery. So for me, that has shaped much of my life, right? And shaped much of the way that I approach my work, which is how do I master not what I desire or what people expect, but how do I master what God has given me? That's it. Yes.
How do I just take the tools that God has given me and master those? And so I'm on this pursuit of whenever someone is at the peak, no matter what it is, if I enjoy it, I want to figure out how did you get there?
I get it. So I totally get it.
That's why we do what we do. But Human Target is an amazing, it's 12 issues. I recommend it.
I mean, the last thing I'll say on this sort of meditative interlude is it's really biblical. If you go back to Genesis chapter 1, right? Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, make culture, steward creation, shape art from what I've given you, and do it to an excellent degree. Like, that's what I think heaven is. Living fully into our purpose. It's taking what God has created and doing something excellent with it that only we can uniquely do. It's a unique expression of God's fingerprint on our soul. And in heaven, we'll be able to do that without obstruction.
Without sorrow, without pain.
Without hindrance, without anxiety, without imposter syndrome, without injustice, without poverty, without a lack of resources. We'll just be able to create and culture. Can you imagine the music, the freestyles that'll come out of that? Huh? The fashion, the hairstyles.
You're preaching, Doc. You're preaching right now.
That's what we're built for, right? And so I think this cultural artifacts just reminds us, hey, it's not all gone. And we don't have to wait till heaven to do it. There are people doing it excellently right now, walking in their purpose. And 10 years on the podcast, maybe that's part of ours. But yeah, I think it's beautiful, man.
That's brilliant, bro.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, speaking of taking raw materials, making something of it, the next one is sort of self-serving, but I'm truly proud of it. So we said that's acceptable in these lists. So my next cultural artifact is Justice Takes Sides merchandise and apparel. So for those who don't know, and I'm not,
is there going to be a promo code?
I'm off brand right now. I'm not wearing the apparel, but I'm really proud of this. I went back, historian in me, and I'm like, when did I started saying this phrase, justice takes sides? And it came out of a frustration, particularly in our politics, where a lot of Christians were saying, well, both sides do wrong things. Both sides are off. So I'm not going to participate in the political process. I'll vote third party. I won't vote at all. Or, I won't call out injustice, because if I say it for these folks, then, what I'm ignoring it from these folks. And what that leads to, particularly in a two-party political system, is a lot of apathy. It's a lot of disengagement. But more broadly, when we're talking about issues of injustice, it's not equal sides. There's an empowered side and there's a disempowered side. There's the folks with the guns and the military and the might. There's the folks with the money and the clout, and then the folks who have less. Typically, that's what's happening in an injustice, whether that's at the border or with poverty or with racism. It's not two equal parties battling it out. It's one party that has hoarded power and wealth and is using that to exploit and oppress another party, typically whole groups of people. And if we fail to recognize that, then we end up standing in the middle, as if that's neutral ground. But is there really any sense of neutrality when injustice occurs? And I just look at the example of Jesus, right? Like Jesus was not afraid of taking a side. And who did he side with? The widow, the orphan, the prisoner, the poor, the sick, right? So I think that concept, justice takes sides, should inform how we view the many different issues of justice today. So I think it's a really, really relevant, salient, urgent concept for more Christians to understand. You taking the middle is not you taking the high road, because there's this quote that I often reference, is that neutrality helps the oppressor.
Yeah,
not the oppressed.
Desmond Tutu, yeah,
and Eli Wiesel. Yeah. So there are a lot of different quotes that we use in the merchandise, but I'm also really proud of the team. So shout out to Izzy, who I met at the Joy and Justice conference. She is a Louisville native. She came up and just introduced herself when she found out I was moving there. She's become our merchandise associate. She's built the website justicetakeSides.com. We did a whole photo shoot.
Yeah,
my son was in
incredible,
that.
Bro.
It's really cool. We've got a little promo video. So she's really made it, a thing. And I hope it's apparel and merchandise, and more importantly, a concept that as followers of Christ, as neighbors to one another in this nation and in the world, we wear this apparel and on marches, on protests, at church, and just represent our values that we want to in the steps of Jesus, advocate and show solidarity with the oppressed, with the marginalized, with the people, as Howard Thurman said, with their backs against the wall. So,
man, I have to shout out the fact that you have made this pivot to being a tremendous entrepreneur.
oof.
Not just simply being someone who is a scholar, but being someone who has to hustle and does it so well and does it with excellence and does it with consistency. And so I think that's something that people don't acknowledge enough about you, like your ability to create and build infrastructure and to share that with people and then to market it and advertise and build your own brand as a result of it. That's a challenge. Whew. That's something that in our particular circles we get hyper criticized for. Black creators and Black entrepreneurs typically get hyper criticized for the fact that we're over promoting or we're in the spotlight. We desire to be in the spotlight when the truth of the matter is many of us have to feel as though we're over promoting just to even get in the door to be heard. So,
Let me tell you,
man, shout out to you, man. Y'all go and buy Justice Takes Side stuff. Go and buy this stuff. What all do you have in terms of merchandise items?
Well, we've got our cornerstone item is the t-shirts, Justice Takes Sides. You'll see that on a lot of our different videos that we record. We also have hoodies, which are super soft and comfortable. I'm not just saying that. Is my go-to sweatshirt when I need one. And we also have other merch, like we have these stickers. We have pop sockets, so you can put on your phone like a holder there. A couple different items, and of course, you can also pick up my books. They're all there at justicetakesides.com. Instagram page, go follow at Justice Takes Sides, and yeah, man, we're trying to.
Okay, I didn't know you had an IG.
Yeah, we got an IG.
Okay, I didn't know
and all
this.
that stuff, and we're starting to do profiles of historical figures who have taken the side of justice, so you can learn as
y'all got to
represent.
buy out all his stuff. I'm telling you, buy out this stuff. PTM community, let's go. Let's buy out all this stuff. JusticeTakesides.com. Buy
Yes,
it
sir.
out. No, that's what's up, bro. Congratulations on that, man. I think my next one, my number 7, is going to be an album. Again, it's a weird year for music, I think, for me. I'm trying to figure out how I've navigated music. I think I probably listen to more older stuff than anything else.
Okay, so you finally got on the Taylor Swift. 1989, is that the one?
No. I've scheduled that for 20 never. But yeah, no, I think the one album I keep coming back to is so funny. This is an album that I can just put on and listen to. And it is an album called A New Thing by an artist called Madison Ryan Ward.
Okay.
And
come on, tell us.
she is essentially like a faith-based R&B singer. And so she sings kind of soul music,
like
that type
that.
of thing. The vibe of it, it's not the album that I would have expected to like or expected to consume. Number one, because I think it's like 22 tracks or something of that nature.
Epic.
And a lot of the songs are only about 2.5 minutes long or so. It's just not a type of album typically I would personally think I would enjoy. The album is incredible. And the album is her voice, first of all, and my wife and I were just talking about this. Her voice is pure. Her voice is soothing. Her voice has so much character in it. And listening to her voice, she rarely takes her voice in different places and inflection points. It's very much so like a Cleo Soul type of vibe. Like she'll maybe do different cadences with her voice, but the basic tone and tenor of her voice will stay the same. And it makes it almost like an album you could pretty much listen to straight through and feel like you're getting one big encouraging sonic experience. And so the way in which it's done is so smooth. Like I'll play out some of this stuff later, but it's so smooth. It really settles you. It's one of the few albums I could actually like work to. That's actually music where people are singing, because normally you can't do that.
With
Normally
words,
it's like lo-fi or something like that. But imagine lo-fi, but someone singing over it in a soothing way. That's what I would say she kind of feels like to me.
That's good.
And so there's a lot of it that I enjoy. Obviously, there's some faith-based elements to it. But I think what I've enjoyed most is just the way in which that album has made me feel.
Ooh.
And you know how sometimes you'll be singing different melodies just casually, and the melodies that I keep coming back to are either hymns or that album. Those are the melodies that I keep coming back to in 2023. So shout out to Madison Ryan Ward. Love the album, and we'll continue to listen to it. It's how Natalie Lauren's most recent album made me feel.
Now, where is Miss Madison hail from? Where's she based out of?
I don't know. Okay. I have no clue. Like it's funny.
Is this her
I haven't
debut?
done. Yeah, no, actually, I think she has done multiple albums before. I think this was just the album. I heard a song at an event, and I Shazammed it.
Ah, there it is.
And what's so funny is I realized, I used her voice for my recap video from last year, where she sings God is Good by Jonathan McReynolds. And I didn't know her name. I just used the voice. So I said, whoever's singing this,
I don't know if you should say it. You might owe her royalties or something.
Right. It's Instagram, man. It's just an Instagram clip. So, it was just her singing, inspired by Jonathan McReynolds.
Oh, word. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. That's
I was like,
okay.
yo. And so it all connected.
So you just randomly found her like.
So I randomly found her again that way. So I'm like, this is the essence of cultural artifacts, because it'll be so random and so inspirational.
I love that.
Shout out to Madison Ryan Ward.
When you said singing over lo-fi, I was like, yes, turn me on.
That's what it kind of feels like to me. That's the best way I could describe it. Well, let's take a break, and we'll be back for our final 3 right here on Pass the Mic. Greetings and God bless. This is Tyler Burns.
And I'm Dr. Jemar Tisby.
And we are so excited to be celebrating 10 years of Pass the Mic.
A decade on the mic, y'all, and it is thanks to you, our listeners. So we want to say thank you for all your years of faithful listening and 8 million downloads.
Listen, every download, every subscription, every share, every encouraging word, every dollar that was donated through Patreon, every person that decided to come to a live Pass the Mic recording at one of our conferences or events, we just want to say thank you. We could not have done this without you.
We would love to journey with you through memory lane. So we've got a 5-part series out right now called Not the Voice, the Microphone, the Pass the Mic story. Shout out to our award-winning producer, Bo York, who has also been with us for 10 years. And you can download and listen to those episodes today. They're out now.
And wherever you are watching this video, we want you to put in the comments how Pass the Mic has blessed you, so we can interact with you there and celebrate what God has done.
We might read some of those online. Oh, we should. Yeah.
We actually should do this. So as we always say, we'll see you soon on the next
Pass the Mic.
So we're back here on Pass the Mic, continuing down our list of cultural artifacts. And I feel kind of bad because sometimes mine kind of veer off into the political, the social, the heavy, and the next 2 definitely fit that bill.
Okay.
So
are you going to give them together, or are you just
no? I'm just going to do one, but I'm just forewarning people. It won't just be like pop culture.
Bro. They know what to expect, man. Just Pass the Mic.
So, I mean,
us.
One of the things that I think about in terms of these cultural artifacts lists are like what are the big things that happened this year that shaped me, maybe shaped the broader culture a little bit. For me, my next cultural artifact is courageous Christian college professors.
This makes a lot of sense, bro. No, this makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense because you've probably been following along, but our listeners like, what? Courageous Christian college professors. In particular, shout out to Sam Jokel and Julie Moore. So what had happened was, all the way back in 2022, or I think it popped off in 2022, Grove City College puts out this ridiculous statement throwing their faculty and staff under the bus for wanting to have conversations about racial justice that went beyond the very small box of very conservative fundamentalist Christianity, right? Part of that included inviting me to go speak at Grove City College. Right. And then the board of trustees, the board of this school, adopted a statement from one of their subcommittees that said it was, quote, a mistake to invite me to speak at chapel. So, I had to go, I wrote an open letter and all that. Came a big thing for me. But this is why I do this stuff. This is why I tell these stories. It's not to clout chase or to build a platform off of criticizing people. It's to empower other people to tell their stories. And that's what happened with these two professors. So I was on Instagram one day and I get tagged in this post, and it's from this professor named Sam Jokel, who I've never heard of. He's down at Palm Beach Atlantic University, which I actually spoke at once a few years ago. And I don't know how y'all college students on beaches do it. Like go to school, like there's palm trees and the beach is a couple blocks away. I'm an F student, easy at that school. Nevertheless,
you don't appreciate what's right around the corner. Trust me.
I can understand that theoretically. But he tags me in this post. Long story short, because I've written about this and we've done other podcast episodes about this, he goes public with his story of his administration. First putting his contract under review because he was teaching a class on racial justice. And then because he went public, ultimately did not have his contract renewed and was out of a job. And this man has kids in school, family, and mind you, he's taught there for 20 years. So massive issue, devastating. That gets some national attention in national news outlets. Another professor saw me amplify his story, Professor Sam's story. Her name was Julie Moore. She's at Taylor University in Indiana. Mm-hmm. Identical situation of she had taught there for several years. She's doing this college writing class, this composition class. The theme is racial justice. And she's been doing this. Here's the thing. They've both been doing this. This is not new. But the landscape has changed. Mm-hmm. Critical race theory, wokeism, all of this stuff. Now these fundamentalist Christian colleges and universities are having to show their donors and their alumni just how far from the left they are.
Yeah.
So they come down on their own professor. So Professor Julie Moore ultimately loses her job. And the thing with Julie Moore was she quoted me in her syllabus.
I remember this, bro.
In the introduction to her syllabus, she quoted a line from the introduction of The Color of Compromise, which, by the way, is not controversial.
It wasn't a controversial line at all.
And she didn't assign my book either. She was just using a quote to introduce the class. But that was enough when she met with her provost to say, well, hey, what's the problem? Why am I being, why is my contract up for debate when all my peers said I'm good to go? And he's like, well, it really comes down to Jemar Tisby. And then he cites this quote, right? So I wrote about that. That became the most read article on my Substack for all of 2023. Sadly, she lost her job. Thankfully, she's gotten some other things going on, but it's devastating. So my cultural artifact are courageous Christian college professors who choose to speak and teach about racial justice in an accurate way, leaving room for their students to form their own opinions, but bringing this up, right? Making this a subject of conversation for Christians in college, and then taking the blows that come from it. These two professors in particular are really just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who have quietly left.
Absolutely.
Quietly said, listen, either we can fire you or you can resign. Quietly are not getting severance or very much. So it's hard. And what I will say is speak from your scars, not from your wounds. But when you are ready to speak, one, it might be beneficial to prevent further harm.
Absolutely.
And two, you've got my ear if you need to speak up.
That's good.
Because these are the things that demonstrate courage over compromise, which is what we need.
Bro, I love that. I think that's right on brand, right on cue. And I think that's a great word to amplify even more stories and more voices of people who are navigating the same things. All right, this next one, I know it's going to be like, what? Bro, this feels very Jemar Tisby.
Okay.
This feels very Jemar Tisby.
I'm interested.
My number 8 cultural artifact from 2023 are fragrances. Now, I know what you're thinking. Your boy into perfumery now.
Wow.
It's a thing. I'm actually considering buying my own perfumery kit because I actually want to start doing it. I'm dead serious. Like, I actually want to start doing it.
I love that.
I know it's like, what in the world? I don't know how I got into it.
I thought you were going to say history something, but this is beautiful.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Just that it's that kind of like self-care situation. You know what I'm saying?
How did this start?
I really honestly don't know. I think I stumbled upon something where someone was like, man, this is a really great cologne, or this was the eau de parfum, as they would say. So now I'm getting into the lingo of a difference between the eau de fresh and the eau de what is it called? Eau de toilette, and the eau de parfum and the elixirs and all this. Bro, I'm all in.
Wow.
I don't really know how, but I just got down the rabbit hole. I follow
love that.
Fragrance TikToks, fragrance YouTube videos. I've got decants coming. Like, I'm very much so like all into this situation.
I am.
I'm talking about like seasonal.
This is super
fragrance
unexpected.
Profiles. Different layers, ouds. Ooh. I'm like all in, bro. I'm like completely all in.
This is really helpful because, Bo and Ryan and I, we were gonna say something, but I'm so glad you've gotten into fragrances.
Right,
so that
right.
Now
well, that's not going to cover that. That's
up.
Not going to cover the must. So if that were true, it wasn't going to cover
it. Just right on time.
No, it's
for
not
you to
cover
be
it.
Interested in smelling good. Finally,
no, man. Seriously, I'm all in.
Wow.
Like,
Well, I can't wait to see what you come up with. You have very discerning
the different
tastes.
houses and the different ways. And what I've noticed that I really enjoy is the number of people of color, and particularly men of color, who have fragrance YouTube channels.
That's amazing.
And I love following their stuff. I love purchasing stuff through their affiliate links and being a part of some of that and just being able to support what they're doing.
Wow.
Because I feel like that's just really, they're trying to help other men do what for, maybe some of us we didn't receive from our fathers or our fathers never taught us about or shared with us. And so it's kind of like that leveling up as a man where you grow. Yeah. And I've always had like little sense and stuff, but I've never really taken it seriously and figured out like, what does this actually mean? And what does this convey? And what are some of the notes that work better on my skin?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it feels like it's more of like a personal discovery for me as well, where I'm trying to figure out, this doesn't, and I mentioned to someone recently who was doing maybe a profile on different colognes and different fragrances. I said, I like that, but it just doesn't project right on my skin. It doesn't feel. And so when I said that, I said, you know what, I would have never said that 5 years ago to know and understand my stuff and myself enough to like feel confident in what works for me. And so it's part of this, I guess, not to get too deep down the rabbit hole, but it's part of this like differentiation that I'm going through with, this process of differentiation that I'm going through in therapy of, where can Tyler be Tyler? Mm-hmm. So I'm just in that process and this is like, feels like another level and layer to that discovery.
I love that you said that because I'm not as deep into the science as you are. But I did get into fragrances in the past year or so. So I've got
amazing.
I've got a business one. I've got a social one. Man, I've got
don't
an evening one.
Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what you're doing. Like, okay.
I got to go research and study.
Tell me
before
one.
all
Just
of
tell me one. What fragrance are you liking right now?
It is Versace Blue.
Yeah, Dylan Blue.
Yes.
Blue. Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a go-to for me.
A blue, like a fresh fragrance.
Yes.
A little bit more aquatic.
It's my CEO. Scent.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. That's funny.
A little sophisticated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love
Come
it.
Come on,
man.
bro.
That's
like, girl, we got a
hilarious.
whole nother. We just became like, did we just become best friends?
Did we just start a new podcast? The next 10 years.
Bro, so for me, what I'm wearing right now, what I've really enjoyed most is Tom Ford Noir Extreme.
Ooh,
It's
yeah,
incredible.
I actually know that one.
I have like,
That is
just
fantastic.
smells like gourmand, like just even smells like, it's almost like this edible scent that it's just really, really great. Mylena loves it. So that's what's most important.
I'm saying, yeah, you got
So
to approve.
I don't have the money to buy these bottles, but I have the money
Get
for
the
the little
little sample
decants
size.
and the samples. So I order those. I'm in a fragrance community.
I
in
literally
Facebook.
told my wife, she was asking for stocking stuffers. I'm like, get me all the cologne, all the scent samples.
Yes.
I literally told her that.
That's so brilliant.
That's
That's so
so funny. We did not know this. That is hilarious.
And now I'm gonna try to figure out what's my favorite house of scents. So,
Yeah, so you
what's
can
my
kind of dive
favorite, so I
in.
can just dive into that and just sample all of them.
This,
bro.
that's a whole new dimension
know,
of our
it's-
friendship right
I
now.
know, bro.
Wow.
So yeah, I knew that was gonna catch you off guard. But yeah, fragrances, man. That's my number 8.
That's great. That's great. All right. To take this in a completely different direction and to
White
go,
supremacy.
to go all heavy again. Bro, so my next cultural artifact is the criminal legal reformers. I have gotten so much energy from being in groups of people who are namely working for reforms in the carceral system and to abolish the death penalty. So by criminal legal reformers, that's broadly speaking, that can be everything from prosecutions and sentencing to law enforcement to jails and prison, all of the whole thing. But what I've been focusing mainly on is once people are in the system, what happens to them. So the reason this is important to me is because as a justice advocate, I don't just want to talk about justice. I want to be involved in doing justice. And in particular, I'm involved in racial justice. So I've always asked myself, what is kind of like the abolition movement of today? What is the field, right? Like it was so specific and so well defined in the antebellum era. Like we literally wanted race-based chattel slavery abolished. And then even in the civil rights era, we literally wanted Jim Crow segregation to end. What is that equivalent now? And I argue that has to do with the carceral system. When you walk into the Equal Justice Initiative, their legacy museum, at least the first iteration of it, there's a wall on the left and sort of floor to ceiling letters that say slavery evolved. And it takes you on a timeline on the wall that shows from race-based chattel slavery to modern day mass incarceration.
It's moving, bro.
And the reason I argue that the carceral system is the direct legacy is because as bad as all of these other systems of oppression are, there aren't any that come close to the physical violence that the criminal legal system can enact upon Black bodies. So from law enforcement and mace, dog bites, of course, killing Black people, to literally controlling Black bodies behind bars. That most closely mirrors some of the physical elements of slavery.
Right.
So anyway, I say all that to say that's the kind of issue that I've tried to dig into, and I've been blessed to be part of a few different things. One, part of the Second Chance Pell Grant program at Simmons College, where we can offer college credit courses to incarcerated individuals. So I've taught there on a number of occasions, teaching African-American history. Mind you, these are Kentucky prisons. So that was new. I had taught in Mississippi prisons where most everybody was Black. Now we looking at half or more are poor white folk. So that's been an interesting cultural shift. I'm on the advisory board of Equal Justice USA, which is different from the Equal Justice Initiative, but Equal Justice USA, which seeks to abolish the death penalty. And they use that language pretty specifically. I've got some podcasts on Footnotes about that. Our own witness fellow, Stanley Frankart, and his ministry, having been an incarcerated individual himself, starting a ministry while he was in there, now continuing that ministry called Young Christian Professionals. He became one of our witness fellows. Tennesseans Against the Death Penalty. Shout out to Stacey Rector. Like, just all over the place, there are these pockets. And when people ask, like, what gives you hope? Those are the things.
Yes.
These small groups of people working, giving their all to a cause that a lot of people either don't even know is a real justice issue, or they want to support and uphold the injustice because of the stigma we've given to so-called criminals, right? So that's a big part of it. And I just want to shout out all the criminal legal reformers, whatever your particular area, whatever your particular organization, the work you're doing is vital. And I think it is in the tradition of abolitionists from the 19th century, and that's continuing today.
Dude, that's so incredible. One of my great joys is being able to teach once a semester at a maximum security prison. And I've been able to teach preaching. That's been really
awesome.
amazing. Like teaching the theory of preaching.
I love that.
The style of preaching, my preaching preparation process.
That's awesome.
And then like try to equip them with certain things. Preaching justice, there's all kinds of different things that I will teach through that course. And so it's really cool to kind of once a semester be able to guest lecture and get to know the guys and connect with them and everything.
And you're the right guy. That's awesome.
Oh man, it's been truly incredible, but it also puts me in proximity to realize the urgent necessity of reform.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the urgent need for it. So that's a great reference for us. And I think that's great to include on this list. All right. So we're winding now to our final two. I have two more. You have one more.
Yes.
And so my ninth cultural artifact is going to be a TV show, and I vacillated which TV show I was going to put in here, but it is going to be The Last of Us.
Very good.
That limited series that is based upon the 2013 video game that came out called The Last of Us, and it follows a pandemic that they're about 20 years, I think, or so, 20 years into a pandemic that was caused by a deadly fungal infection that prompted a zombie apocalypse and destabilized the world. So The Last of Us is, wow.
I've never seen an episode.
Wow. Intense.
And this is why.
But deeply emotionally resonant. I think the thing that stuck with me is following Joel and Ellie and their relationship and how they have to, in many cases, bury and move on. There's one particular scene I'm thinking of. I think it may have been at the end of the third or the fourth episode where they have to bury in a very tragic way. And they bury and they just keep walking. And it was the level of the decision to still survive, but also the decision and the desperation to continue in the midst of losing people that you got close to in a short period of time. How quickly you can get close to people in times of tragedy, and then how quickly that connection can fade, and it can be ripped away based upon their lives ending. And whenever you think about post-apocalyptic things, having been someone who's lived through hurricanes where it would knock out the power grid for multiple weeks and you would be in 3-hour gas lines, to get gas, and you'd have to go in and get maybe 3 items from the grocery store and they pass you these flashlights. And, I've been in those situations where you're looking around and saying, just to get basic stuff, I have to stand in line for 2 hours outside to get basic stuff, and the desperation of humanity that comes from that, but also the good that comes from that as well. So The Last of Us is an HBO limited miniseries. I think the game is amazing. I haven't been able to play the game. I feel like the game would be more depressing for me than the show. Okay. So I'm like, I kind of don't want to play the game, but I should, because it's kind of a classic, in video game culture. But I'll say that I'll put the show in there as the ninth cultural artifact.
So again, I haven't seen it. The fungus infects the brain, but it also deforms them.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixture. It kind of depends, right? So it kind of becomes, they all kind of have hive mind as a result of it, and they're connected, and Yeah.
So I think that part of the reason why I don't watch it or haven't seen it is superficially they look grotesque with the fungus, like worse than the
and then there's different
zombie.
Ones too. There's different ones as a result.
I can't,
different styles and types. And,
and the heaviness of it. Like I saw the one with Nick Offerman. The clip.
Yeah. That episode that's one of the best episodes of television that I've seen in a very, very, very long time. Brilliant. resonant, human, and deeply, deeply heartbreaking.
So well acted. And again, I just saw that 10, 12-minute segment. And so I wasn't even invested in the characters, but even in that short amount of time, I was like,
yep.
Oh my gracious.
I would recommend it. I think it's a good, I know it's heavy, but I would still recommend it. You can do a chaser with some of your comedy shows and stuff like that.
My last one maybe is a little Tyler-esque in that it's kind of not predictable, if you will. It's a little bit off kilter in a good way.
Okay.
My last cultural artifact for 2023, the sequels. Movie sequels.
Wow.
Yeah. I just started thinking about this. Exactly. I was thinking about my movie theater experiences, my streaming experiences, and I have really enjoyed some of the sequels that I've seen. So, for instance, the first one that came to mind, Extraction 2.
Extraction 2 was really good.
Bro.
Extraction 2 is really good.
Bro. This is with Chris Hemsworth.
It's really good.
The action scene at the prison, the fight scene, unbelievable. John Wick level.
Yeah.
But with a crowd. It was amazing. Plot was good, and it set us up at the end for possible more sequels. So it could be this kind of franchise thing. Another one I just mentioned, John Wick 4.
Yeah, bro. That's on my honorable mentions. Yeah.
My. Again, a movie I can watch over and over and over. I love the simplicity of it. They're like, here's John Wick. He's good at fighting. We're going to give you 2 hours of fighting.
Right.
That's it.
Here are the guns.
Yes. And I can't remember which John Wick it was, but somebody went through, he said like 350 words the whole movie. That was his line. He could memorize it like in a paragraph.
Right.
And the rest is just choreography, fighting choreography. Another one, Equalizer 3. Have you seen that one?
I have seen Equalizer 3. It was very much so different than the previous
Very
ones.
much so. Antoine
but I think
Fuqua.
I really liked where it took the character.
Absolutely. I really appreciated the character arc from 1 to 3. The way they sort of wrapped a bow on the series, I thought made sense, did it okay. And then another sequel, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
Man, I didn't. I labeled that in our group chat Mission Impossible because I thought it was mid, but
it's not the best
bro,
one.
I thought it was mid, like for real. But I appreciate the risk that they took.
It's not the best Mission Impossible. That would be, in my view, maybe Ghost Protocol.
Yeah, Ghost Protocol.
Yeah. So
probably, yeah.
But as a sequel, this is what, number 6 in the franchise.
Yeah.
And 6, it's still 7, strong.
Yeah. I like the tie into the old stuff, and the old situations, everything coming a reckoning, truly a true reckoning. Yeah. I really like that. So
I'm just saying the series started in 1996.
Yeah.
It's 2023 that the second to last movie came out, and it's still strong.
Still strong. Yeah.
That's impressive. Most can't pull off one sequel.
Man.
Right? So the sequels, it's been really interesting.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3,
That was so freaking depressing. But yeah, I guess well done.
Dang, bro. We all went to see that together, didn't we?
Yeah.
We're fire, man.
No, I went to see that with
oh, that's right. You had already seen it. That's right. My bad. You had already seen it.
But maybe it speaks to the Marvelification of movies these days, where it's a franchise based scene where almost, especially in the action genre, every movie is a pilot episode,
right,
for what might be a franchise.
Mix. I think there's definitely like a shared universe thing that Marvel probably coined, and that's a problem that Marvel probably is unique to them. But I think sequels and franchises, I think that's always been pretty popular. So
it's always been pretty popular. It feels like, though, what they want is the next
sequels,
MCU string of hits where you can just count on this franchise to be blockbusters. But I mean, just with the ones I mentioned, and there are more, I'm like, but some of them are pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a great one. That's a great one to end on. I'm going to end us on a TV show, and I'm going to end us on more media. Speaking of the MCUification of everything, my number 10, and if I could rank it, would probably be my number 1.
Okay.
Is Loki season 2.
Oh,
Loki season 2. Without any doubt.
Yes,
Have you seen Loki season 2?
yes.
Let me tell you something. I was not prepared. I was not prepared. I was not ready. I was not, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I was just not prepared. I was not ready. And I'll just say this. I was not ready for the fact that I would step away from that season saying Loki is the best character in the MCU. As a character.
Right. And you can make a strong argument for that.
I think that's the best character in the MCU. And I was blown away by the levels and layers of how not just they built on Loki, but I was blown away by the fact that they were able to keep that cast intact, add maybe 1 or 2 people to it, and really feel like that's a family. I was like, this cast feels like a family. This cast feels like they're encountering things together, trying to solve problems, save people. There were shocking moments. There were moments of where you were just completely blown away by the expectation of what was going to happen than what actually happened. And there were moments of great loss and defeat and failure. And I guess there were moments of triumph, but not really. It's just like, what do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, what? Yeah, kinda. So I guess, in the strict definition, there's overcoming, but it's like, what does overcoming really look like? Yeah. And the line that sums it up is, purpose is more burden than glory.
Come on.
And when a certain character said that, I was in shambles because I felt like that's how many of us feel like purpose is glory. But purpose yields with it such a profound burden and a weight that honestly, for those who do not have loving community, faith and belief in Christ, and hope for eternity, I don't know how you do it. Yeah. I personally don't. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you keep going in a way that sustains you and in a way that features a true fulfillment. And so I just think Loki wrestled with so many different things. And in a moment, he has to blurt out what he really wants. Yeah. And in that moment where like, what do you want? What do you want? Oh, I want this. I want this. I want that. I just want to. And when he says what he says,
and it felt genuine from all the movies that you had seen. You could sort of feel that underlying his character without him ever coming close to admitting it in the films. But then in the show, when he says it, it's like, finally. Yeah.
I know everybody's like, I don't want to see another MCU thing, another Marvel thing, another whatever. I hear you. Let me tell you, it's different. Yeah. Watch Loki season 2 and
probably season 1.
Oh yeah. Well, if you haven't seen season 1, you got to watch season 1. It's not going to make sense unless you do that. So watch season 1 and season 2. And I know you marvel at, MCUification of everything. You got to watch this to watch this to watch this. No, I think you can watch those 2 seasons self-contained. I think you'll be totally fine. And I think you will fall in love with the character, and the character has clearly fallen in love with himself. But I think at the end of it, I think you'll get a greater appreciation.
I think it's actually a great illustration of what I'm learning more and more in justice work is the external changes may or may not come. But what happens to you in the process of it, that's what the work is really about in a lot of ways. So Loki, of all things, would be an illustration of that.
Boy, that's good, man. That's good. Okay, all right. We got to run through our honorable mentions.
Real quick.
Give me some honorable mentions that
you're going to love this one. Time Person of the Year, 2023. Do you know who that is?
Probably Deion Sanders, right?
No.
No, I don't.
Taylor Swift.
Oh gosh.
It ain't just me. It ain't just me. Listen.
It is you and many young white high school teenagers.
Whatever the demographics, right? But here's the other cool one is Wikipedia does sort of a wrap up every year of their top 25 articles. And there was a bunch of other stuff, but she's number 12 on Wikipedia with 19 million page views just to find out more about this megastar. I'm just saying, in terms of somebody who put together artistry, longevity, and business, there's other artists, who are in the same league.
Namely Beyonce,
of course.
Gosh.
But just the cultural impact is up there. So that's one honorable mention. I got more. What you got?
Go ahead. No, sure.
Go, keep going.
Okay, yeah. So the Attack on Titan finale. Okay, I almost got you. You almost got for the first time a repeat mention onto the list. That was the last thing that I cut, and the only reason I cut it is because I felt like I hadn't sat with it enough because it just happened. So it was absolutely incredible, resonant, tied everything up, ended the show arc supremely well. That's an anime. I talked about it a couple years ago. Go back and listen to me talk about it and go and watch Attack on Titan. John Wick 4 that you mentioned.
Nice.
The TV show The Bear season 2, because I'd already mentioned The Bear, I didn't bring it up again. But The Bear is church leadership, church planting. Just know that. My Truth, the album by Jonathan McReynolds. Cleo Soul's album is amazing. Kurt Franklin's Father's Day documentary.
Oh yeah,
we didn't put that in.
One of mine.
So those are some of mine. I have a couple of more, but do you have any others?
Father's Day documentary was on mine. I've got a list of documentaries I haven't seen yet, but I'm excited about. I did Audible was another. I did that last year. So I didn't put it on the list this year, but it's really the books in there.
Yeah, same.
So I've been listening, of course, a lot of sort of business books, but also a lot of biography, comedy drama by Bob Odenkirk.
Okay, yeah,
was really interestingly done. I am a comedian memoir connoisseur.
Yeah.
And there are some that are done really well, including who's my guy, Seth Rogen's. Was hilarious because he didn't try to do anything other than what he does, which is be a very talented stoner. It's like, and his book read that way.
Will is amazing on audiobook.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
The Will Smith autobiography is amazing.
So I love listening to that. Another honorable mention for me is the podcast Smartless.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know if we've talked about this. Three guys in their 50s, white guys, actors.
Yes, we have talked about this. Yeah. You did mention this. Yes.
So I was unexpectedly taken in by this because there's this banter at the beginning, and then the shtick is one of the hosts invites a guest, and the other two don't know who it is. So it's completely unscripted. But it sounds like you're in the group chat for these guys. And what's funny, we were talking about mastery before, they've all been in the business for 30 plus years or more. So they know what they're talking about when it comes to acting, television, and movies, directing, all of that. They know everybody in the industry. They can speak with incredible knowledge about it. And it's just funny and it's fun. And we talked about in the first cultural artifacts, morning routines. And this is one of my morning routines I just listen to because I'm catching up on all the backgrounds I listen to episodes. Yeah.
I love that. The EP Like a Ship by Pastor T.L. Barrett. That is from the 70s. That almost made my list. It's a lot of like old school black church choir music, but that's brilliantly done. Sounds very modern. Used a lot in your Netflix, documentaries and stuff like that. The anime Vinland Saga has been really fun. I've really enjoyed that. There's a book called Someday Is Today that I've read that's really helped my creative process. So check that out. And then the artist I want to give you a recommendation for that I was mentioning earlier is an artist named Shabuzi, who is a black country / hip hop artist. So he does country, trap, hip hop stuff. It's really
That
dope.
sounds very intriguing.
Yeah, I
would
think it's called
definitely check
Let
out.
It. There's one song I think it's called Let It Burn or something like that. I think that one was really the one that grabbed me, and he just has such a unique, refreshing.
Shabuzi.
Shabuzi, yep.
Hard to forget.
Shabuzi. Anyway, it's been a great year. It's been a great year. Thank you all so much for continuing to support Pass the Mic and taking joy in what we take joy in. So go back and listen to part 1, and then definitely follow and listen to the things from part 2. And I'm really excited about 2024 and excited to learn more, discover more, and go on that journey with you on Pass the Mic.